All right, well, with the Florida school shooting still on everyone's mind, we're talking to a human behavior expert to see what exactly are the traits of a mass murderer. All right, welcome back. Following the Florida school shooting that killed 17 people, we're still arguing about guns and how to prevent this tragedy from ever occurring again. A video on Facebook has gone viral with 14 million views where the governor of Kentucky blames America's culture problem for school shootings.
Cultural problem. We have a culture that is desensitized to death, that is desensitized to the value of life, and we celebrate death through our musical lyrics. We celebrate death through video games that literally reward you with extra points for going back and finishing people off.
Are school shootings the result of culture or gun laws? Australia changed its gun laws 22 years ago after a man shot dead 35 people, and there hasn't been a mass shooting since then. Here to discuss and compare the cultures of America and Australia is human behavior expert Dr. Patrick Wanis, who actually grew up in Australia. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So what do you think of Governor Bevin's claims that guns are not the problem, it's our American culture?
He raises some highly valid points. First and foremost, he says you have to look at everything. You've got to look at what is it within this culture that creates and results in these mass shootings. He also says some things that not many other people are talking about, such as breakdown of the family unit and medication, which I'll talk about in a moment.
Okay.
He's the first politician to ever do that. Having said that, we also, if we're going to look at everything, then let's look at what is the significance of guns. There are less guns in US households today than there was in 1975, but more mass shootings. Why? What's changed?
Yeah, what's changed?
It's the way that we view guns. It's the way we view violence that has actually changed. So Governor Bevin makes a good point. He says, look, someone could kill children while they're waiting in line for the school bus by running them over. Yes, but they're not doing that. The weapon of choice is guns. And it's usually automatic weapons. So we have to ask ourselves, does a gun create masculinity and significance? Does wielding a gun transform a powerless, isolated, bullied, depressed boy into a powerful man? Do we promote and glorify guns as a way to seek revenge? And does the media coverage of guns, of school shootings rather, create copycats? Nicholas Cruz of the Valentine's Day Massacre posted on YouTube, "I want to be a professional school shooter."
Yeah.
So you have to look at guns and the fact that an automatic weapon gives you the chance to kill many more people very quickly. The other difference between Australia and America is censorship. Australia has the strictest censorship laws regarding video games and internet in the entire Western world. So we don't have in Australia first right and second right amendments. We don't have them. Big one.
Okay.
Now, again, I want to praise Governor Bevin for having the intestinal fortitude, the courage, the integrity to say we also need to look at the link between medication and mass shootings. No other politician has ever said that. America is the most medicated nation on the planet.
Right.
60% of Americans are on medication. 3.2 billion prescriptions filled in 2014. There is a link between medication, murder, deaths, violence, and suicide. And we can't rule that out. In 2010, a study in the US established links between medication and violence, specifically antidepressants, sedative hypnotics, and ADHD drugs. If we're going to look at everything, then let's look at also...
So are you saying all the mass shooters in the last couple of years, they've all been on medication?
Good point. All of the mass shooters are on some form of medication.
They were.
Every single one of them. And then that leads us to the next point. Well, what is the profile of a mass murderer?
Right.
Now, I've identified 20, but here are sort of the top 5. As far as school shootings are concerned, number 1, males aged 16 to 25. Number 2, depression. Depression, social withdrawal, psychosis, psychopathy. Number 3, long-standing fascination with violence and weapons. And I'm missing number 4. So we have males, depression, medication. Every one of them was on some form of medication.
Right.
Long-standing fascination with violence and weapons and guns. And then number 5, access to automatic weapons with the intention to kill as many people as possible in public and 99.9% of the time in daylight.
An AR-15 isn't used for hunting. It would destroy the animal, destroy the meat. I mean, it's clearly designed to be a mass-killing machine.
If Governor Bevin is going to do what he says, you've got to look at everything. You can't say, well, we're not going to consider guns at all. You've got to look at the whole culture of America that's creating this.
So, I mean, like, do you envision like some kind of comprehensive law reform where it's like, okay, if you're a young man between 16 and 25 and you're on medication, then you would be flagged? I mean, that's a HIPAA violation, but they would not be able to get a gun?
If you're not going to change your first right amendment or your second right amendment, you're going to say we're going to give access, we're going to have complete free speech, we're going to have a situation where anyone can have access to guns or any type of guns, then you have to say, how are we going to limit the person that has mental illness from access to these
guns? Who's most likely to be a mass shooter?
Someone that is on medication that has, if they don't have a form of mental illness, the medication is changing them. How are we going to prevent them from access to these guns and from killing people? The last point that Governor Bevin said, which I think is a fantastic quote, is it's not possible to put evil in a box. You've got to look at everything. And he did mention the breakdown of the family unit. And I would say to that, the biggest problem we have is that fathers are no longer fathers. They're not involved in raising their sons.
There's so much to discuss. There's so much more to look into. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. All right, we have a lot more right here on Daily Flash.